Hi, my name is Michelle Stacy Kabenda, and I'm one of the co-founders for NamaFre Apparel. Me and Karen Kawada developed this idea about a year ago, and now we are part of the Hawkeye Accelerator program, trying our best to do customer discovery and potentially launch sometime soon. So, NamaFre Apparel. So, we provide ready-to-wear clothing for East African young adult women, and hopefully one day we'll be able to provide it for men as well. But women are our biggest target market right now, so that they can proudly wear cultural clothing in a modern way. Unlike our competitors, we want to mix modern wear with traditional wear. We plan on providing our clothing via an e-commerce business that allows customers to order the clothing right from the comfort of their own home. So our customer segments, so far we've done about 40 positive customer discoveries. And we found that our target market are looking for the type of clothing that we plan on developing. However, they just don't know where to get it. And the only place to get some of this clothing is by either flying back to Africa, and that's a whole plane ticket, or ordering the fabrics yourselves, finding someone to help you design it and create it. Um, on average, they pay between $70 to $200 for this type of clothing, and that's normally by ordering it from home and stuff. And there's just a lot of things that go into that. They're looking for cultural clothing with a subtle look. So they're looking for something that mixes with Western attire while proudly showing their cultural clothing as well. And our target market, like mentioned before, is East African males and females, but right now our biggest target is women because they're the ones who are most interested in clothing between the ages of 18 to 25 and those with disposable income. So our go-to market plan, we recently just developed a sketch of our first article of clothing, which is moja, which means one in Swahili. And we wanted to first do a limited article of the clothing, so about 25 of those things. The sketch for the jean is on the bottom right, and the clothing itself is up there on the upper left. And after we do that, we plan on taking pictures for our website and social media pictures and creating a promotional video, develop our social media sites, and also leverage the relationships I have and Vanessa has as well. We are very active within the East African community across the United States and in East Africa. So we just plan on using those relationships that we have in order to enter the market. Our current steps right now, as I just showed you, we are developing the clothing article website development. We have started on that, and marketing, trying to figure out what are the best steps to take in terms of marketing so that we're not necessarily wasting our time with the wrong things, but using the best marketing strategies to reach our audience. But yeah, that's it so far. And on this page, I have my contact information. Any questions?
I have a question. How's it going? So you talked about the jeans being the first kind of flagship first piece.
Yeah.
Given that there are so many jean sizes, both for men and women, how do you feel you can narrow down, a jean that's going to be able to sell, 2,500 units for a wide variety of people, given that variation, versus something that's a little more universal, let's say like a shirt or a skirt.
Yes. Actually, that is one thing that we are actually trying to figure out right now. We are trying to reach out to someone who I've worked with in the past, to see if we can get them to work with us in creating these articles of clothing. Because we figured if, and I don't know if it would be possible, but in our minds, like if someone orders the jean and they put their size on there, then we place the order with the person who's creating them. But sadly, that is something that we're not too knowledgeable on right now, but it is something that we are looking into to see what is the best steps to take and if we should do a different article of clothing. But We just thought like the jeans definitely would be something that would sell.
Sure. Did two question follow up. One, are you manufacturing the gene? Are you building the gene from scratch, or are you buying a gene and modifying it? And then number two, you said that the jeans would be the biggest seller, that you think that would be sell the most. Have Has that been confirmed from those 40 interviews, that that's what your audience is looking for?
So the first question in terms of manufacturing, we'd want to get jeans and just modify them. I think would be the most cost effective. Um, it honestly just depends on who we're working with, um, to see whether we should just get the jean fabric and then use it from scratch, but that would probably cost a lot more money. So most likely getting jeans and modifying them. And the second part, to see if the jean would be the most thing to sell. Mm, I guess that was an assumption that I had made, but I know people aren't necessarily, from the customer discoveries, I know that people are not necessarily just looking for a regular t-shirt, and they're not just looking for um, something too simple. There have been companies that have tried to do the same thing, and they either try to make the entire clothing out of the article, out of the Chikoi fabric, and most of those businesses, um, from the research I've done, didn't last too long. So we want to stray from that. And then others would create it with the Chikoi fabric, but it would be, you could tell there wasn't too much effort. Not that there wasn't any effort put into it, but it wasn't necessarily something that the people wanted, because it would just be a simple shirt or something basic. And a lot of the people that we're reaching out to are fashionable individuals who would want some high quality material. And we thought jean would be the best way to go. But that is definitely something that we will start looking into with our customer discovery.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. This kind of goes off of what the last couple questions. So you have a product, you have a pair of jeans. What are you planning to charge for them, and what do you want your margin to be between what you're charging and your cost of goods?
Um, Michelle, I can take this one. So, with our customer discovery, we found that people are willing to pay upwards of um, even 150 for the clothing that we presented, and that we've been wanting to manufacture. So, we've been wanting to set the price of our clothing for 50, 75, or even up to, and we've been told that even that's too cheap for the clothing. So we've been wanting to find the perfect price for the customer and for ourselves. As far as the difference between how much we're going to be making it, it depends on the cost of manufacturing. How much we're going to be pricing it will depend on the cost of manufacturing, but we also don't want to price it too low.
Okay. Any other questions?
Have you looked at any like manufacturers, like reached out to anybody, found a manufacturer, not necessarily for jeans, but maybe going to like a skirt or a blouse or something might be a little easier to make. I know the jeans is kind of, what a lot of people would want, but it might be easier to find somebody to make, something else versus jeans, which are notoriously difficult to try and get produced.
Um, while looking for manufacturers, asking for advice and stuff like that, I was told that manufacturing with like companies and stuff might include a contract, and I do not believe that we are at that stage. So we'd have to be working with like small businesses or local businesses that custom sew. Um, so it really just depends on what these small businesses are capable of doing or are willing to do for us, and then moving on from there. But yes, there is one that I have reached out to in Des Moines, that I've worked with before in terms of creating my own personal designs just for fun, that I'm waiting to hear back from.
Thank you.
This is kind of a trendy and probably overdone thing, but have you considered maybe doing one of those like social good things where you have like the clothing made in Africa by like women that are trained, you know, to do the work, that kind of thing? Like I said, it's a little trendy, but it seems like people kind of like supporting those causes when there's like a social good aspect tied to it.
So that is not actually something that we have considered. However, we do plan on using some of our profits to go back into our community. Karen and I are very much so for the East African community. Like, even outside of our business, we're always working with the African Communities Network in Iowa. We've done the African Student Association, Miss Uganda Association. So we are always trying to find a way to help our community back home. So we do plan on using some of our profits to just build the city that we grew up in. So not just any city, but like it's called Chitebi, which is a neighborhood in Kampala in Uganda. So we'd want to put that back into some of our schools there, or just helping some of the small businesses there to give back to them to see them progress as well. So it's definitely not just for us, it's definitely for our families and communities back.
That's great. I think definitely using that when you're considering like your marketing efforts. I think people really like supporting causes that, you know, do good rather than just like take money. So I think people would like to support that.
Thank you.
I would chime in one last time saying, think about creating something that's kind of a signature piece, right? I mean, I think the jeans looked really good, but there wasn't a lot of complexity to it, right? That the concept could be easily replicated by someone else. And it's a question of, is there a combination of style that you can design something that's easy to produce but is distinctive, that it becomes your signature flagship piece, and that starts the trend. Because if it's something that you're using another gene and just modifying that gene, now can I buy two of the same gene, or is it just random selections of genes that are customized, and is the fit going to be the same? And I think it's going to get very complicated, especially from a manufacturing perspective, because even if you, let's say, have the money today and you could make 5,000 pairs of jeans, that is, a lot, that a product you need to move before you can do anything else. And that assumes that you have the money in the bank and you can get that going. So it's like, what can you do to make cash flow today, quickly, easily, that costs you very little in money and effort, to start the ball rolling, to then do more complicated pieces.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I kind of have one going off of that. You're, since you haven't, you're pretty early still with this thing. What? I'm trying to think of a good way to ask this. What sort of research have you done to kind of figure out how you're going to raise that money whether you're going to do, are you going to do pre-sales? Are you going to do a Kickstarter? Because I know Kickstarter is usually a way that some folks do to kind of, you need the 10,000 in order to place the order for jeans or for whatever clothing you end up with. Have you thought about how you're going to raise that initial capital?
So, dang, sorry. So, this is an idea I've had for like the past year. So I've done pitch competitions with the Tippy School of Business. So right now we do have $1,500 to work with, and then we were thinking about potentially doing pre-orders, because we also thought like putting a design out there, putting clothing out there would also help us with like customer discovery as well, in a way to actually see what would sell.
Mhm.
That's why we want to start with like limited amount of members. But yeah, we do have some funds in our account to work with, and then do pre-orders.
Because I know other clothing companies have kind of done the either the pre-order or the Kickstarter to get the large chunk of money they need to get things manufactured. Because a lot of manufacturers want at least some of the money up front in order to do the order. So definitely something to think of as you're moving through this.
Kickstarting is actually something I'm not too familiar with. So is there a way I can get some more information on that?
Okay.
Or should I just?
Yeah, if you're looking into that, I know we've had one of our good friends and former presenters, Alex Colby-Frakes, is kind of a Kickstarter guru, and then another one of our presenters, a team from the University of Iowa, No Limits, Erica Cole. She, I think, had a successful Kickstarter for her, actually manufacturing jeans for folks with like amputees with prosthetics, so that it's easier to get clothing on, kind of a easy mobility sort of thing. So we can get you connected with that, with those things. Yeah, Liz is putting in their WeFunder as well as a good way to raise money as well.
Yeah, Jay, thanks. Because that's one of the things I was going to say is maybe we get in touch with Erica and the No Limits team, as they've been exploring some of the clothing, and they also work with like an accelerator lab within Target Corporation. And so even with Target support, they still have to come up with a certain amount of funding just to get the first round of clothes done.
Yeah.
And just one thought too, from my perspective, as you're doing some clothing stuff and you're looking at interest, have you put together any websites where you could test interest before you even put an order out? So you could put the concepts out there so that people, even if they're interested in like signing up for a mailing list, is basically doing a smoke test with some of this, so you don't have to commit, and you could see where interest might be and see if there's desirability before committing to thousands of dollars of manufacturing.
No, that is actually not something I've considered. I would definitely look into that as well. What did you call it? Like a smoke?
Sometimes we call it a smoke test. So it's like when we're considering putting a new product, before we go too far, we describe what it might be, what it might look like, so it looks real enough. And you have like a web page, and you can even, like for work I've done in the past, it might be, do you want to sign up for a list as we, when this goes live, or do you want to find out more? Because you can even test the desirability. If they're not, if you're not even getting a lot of interest of somebody wanting to cough up an email address, they might not be that willing to buy a physical product. But these are ways where you could test a few concepts. Like you had your art up, and you could get that at a higher level of fidelity too, to show what clothing you're considering, and that might be a way to test some desirability as you're, again, in parallel with all the other great work that you're doing. So just throwing those out there, not as a critique, but just some options. And again, I think I don't want to speak for Erica, but yeah, she did have a successful Kickstarter, and she might be a great kind of person to just navigate what some of the early clothing challenges were for somebody that's new to the game.
I had a question for you, Matt. Is there like a specific soft for these smoke tests. Is there a specific software
No, I just in the past it's just
or,
basically buying a
or
domain, just buying a domain and mocking up some web pages, and I mean some of those can be, like even through like Squarespace or Wix, just putting a really quick web page together with some stylized photos, some description of the product, the service, your business, your positioning. I mean, it's like some of the things you already had from this morning's presentation. Um, so the a little bit of cost, but that would be like basically getting some type of domain up. But again, a lot cheaper than having to commit to X number of products run and then sitting on that inventory.
I know Mailchimp actually does. You can do landing pages on Mailchimp now. So then that's all you have to do is buy the domain, and Mailchimp is completely free. It collects your email addresses from the mailing list or from the landing page. I know I've used that before. And it's a fantastic way to just see what kind of interest you have in something. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and just so a side note, uh, I lecture at the University of Iowa on innovation, and that's one of the things where we see companies struggle, is they jump to feasibility and viability of their business plan before they've confirmed desirability. And so this is a way to kind of de-risk, the feasibility on who's really going to be producing the jeans and clothing, but just some quick lean ways to run that. And yeah, Jay, I haven't tried Mailchimp, but I just did because I use Mailchimp for my business email, and I did
Yep.
see they're pushing like more services like that. So Mailchimp might be one, like a one-stop shop that Jay just kind of described. You could actually get a landing page, and as people are coming in, they also have a form to gather the email addresses.
So plenty of services out there that do similar things. I've used Mailchimp and have had success with it. So, but there are plenty of other options as well. Any other questions?
One thing I was gonna suggest is just doing something simple like Etsy, like just having 5 or 10 pieces to like just throw up, put up on Etsy and see, you know, if people take it from there. That way, you'd only need to make 5 or 10 pieces, and then if you sell out, you just say I don't have any, and people can't really be upset over that. But that'd be another way to like, kind of sort of stay local, but still have a worldwide reach to get to people. So
Gabe, I think that's this is Eric. It's a really interesting idea, Stacy and Karen. I think Gabe's point there is probably one of us, any of us who built like e-commerce websites or gone through that process. That's a whole other set of issues and skills and team members that you need to involve. And so I would seriously think, look into Gabe's advice and using another platform like Etsy as a place to, put your products without having to build and set up bank accounts and email addresses and all the many complexities involved with that, and that'll allow you to really focus on the other unique parts of your business, like your product and the design and understanding your market and what their interests are. Because I, for one, my full-time job is just dealing with web stuff, and there's a lot of time and energy that you can spend on that without really advancing your business. So I think that's a nice piece of advice.
Cool. Any more questions before I ask our traditional final question? Not hearing any, I will ask our traditional final question here at 1MC Iowa City. What can we as the community do to help you?
Well, now there's a lot of things that I'm processing right now and trying to figure out how to redo. But I think if you guys know any people who do custom sewing, um, it'd be really nice to get in contact.
Yeah, and if you want to drop your contact information in the chat, um, we can pass some info on to you. I know that this was a lot to absorb. I know you're pretty early on, so this is always the stage where it's information overload at this point. So definitely let us know if we can help as you're going forward. So